Round 7, and we can see that G2 start off on the open area and kitchen site. Now, they're going to play things a little bit differently to how W7M previously played it in the first half. The first thing to note from G2's point of view is that they are holding only 3 reinforcements on the kitchen wall, and they have lines of sight holes, as you can see here, inside of the 4th kitchen wall. They're also playing a rotate to tellers. Just to contrast that with how W7M played it, they obviously closed off all of these walls in totality and allowed G2 all of the space in archives, tellers, bottom square for free. As you can see, the fact that there's a rotate, the fact that there's holes, means that G2 are going to play Benjamaster inside of the archives room. Now, if you're Benjamaster, and I'm going to highlight him in blue, he's got lots of possible points of contact here. You can see he's got a point of contact on the electrical. He's got a point of contact at top blue door. Point of contact at the stairs. And from the other side, he's got a lot of soft wall that he needs to think about and a doorway. Now, what G2 are going to do is use Benjamaster as the bait. He's going to look like the soft and the easy target for W7M to attack. Because as you can see, no real reinforcements, no utility placed into him. However, he is the bait in a two-way crossfire. Basically, if Benjamaster exists in the blue circle, let's just put it there somewhere, a W7M focus on it, Doki from kitchen can hold on to all of these points of contact and provide a crossfire with Benja. As you can see, the same lines of sight basically can be established that crossfire. So at worst case scenario, Doki can refrag him out or Benja can refrag Doki. Alternatively, should the attack come from the west side across from lobby, this is where a player from the other 3 players of G2 can come into play, because they can get to the main stairs angle and they can hold lines of sight over between the rotate through towards the lobby from there, and then obviously Benja can play on the same lines from where he is. So basically, it all focuses around Benja being the bait and W7M taking that bait. Now, obviously, this is a horizontal extension, and it's designed to basically create a triangle between the 3 G2 players here so that they can all help each other out. Now, to do that, G2 also need to hold on to the top floor, because as you can see, all of the verticality above tellers and archives, it's a lot of soft floor. So if W7M take the verticality, then obviously they can clear Benja out vertically without walking into crossfires. So that's why you're seeing a G2 setup where they've got Kanto wall reinforced, they've got Janitor double reinforced, they've got the Heaven wall reinforced, they've got rotates, they've got shields, and they've got hatches open. Now the hatches have to be open for G2 to have all of these reinforcements, but it is a complete bait setup where G2 are looking to hold on to vertical and also horizontal. Now, the only thing that they're really giving across the whole map, the only thing that they're really giving W7M for free is lobby. As you can see, there's not too much in lobby. There's a couple of wooden barricades, but that is about it. G2 basically are trying to trip W7M into going into lobby here and then going into bottom square here by kind of making them think it's free, because obviously W7M, they're going to want to crossfire Benja because he seems to be on his own. Now, that's how the site's set up. Let's see how it plays out. As you can see, W7M, they've opened up the site window early and puts that pressure up. And you can see from their outlines, the player outlines, that they're going to be going into lobby. In fact, one's already in ATMs, one's on lobby repel. Another is in ATMs, and you can see just in this far outline, one is in the basement. So the only reason that you're going in the basement is either to go up the blue stairs, to go into bottom square, or to go into the main stairs. They're the only 2 ways you can go from the basement. So it looks like they've identified and have targeted Benja, and that they want to move fast to try and get him. So far, they are falling into G2's trap, and that's a big issue for W7M. They've got a nice idea here by trying to cut off a long line of sight, a really long line of sight from the attackers from the rappel all the way down here. This cuts off Benja's possible rotation out. So they're definitely trying to work him. You can see 2 players working into Teller's office, the line of sight holding this rotate, and then one looks like he's going to come up from the blue stairs. So it's just about Benja communicating to his teammates. Blair makes a really good play here. Gets himself all the way down here and can hold a big line of sight all the way through and can start communicating to Benja that these players are coming to try and kill Benja. So Benja just needs to be the bait. The line is very well known. Obviously, that DMR is really loud as well. And you can see over on this side, bottom square has been established by W7M. But Doki is absolutely ready for it and gets the kill. Benja is still continuing to be that bait. He just needs to sit in this archives. You can see Alamo, same. Just trying to drop down to help his teammate. It's really good by G2. As soon as they realize Benja's under pressure, they've got the trap. They know that they can leave their top floor positions. They know they can just focus on this Tellers and Archives fight, because if they win that, that's the win condition established for G2. You can see the fight's still occurring. Volps finds one onto Benja, but Blair finds one onto KZ. Now, you've got a situation where Volps has achieved what he wanted, but from the defense's perspective, he's in basically a three-way crossfire. Blair's holding him, Alamo's holding him, and Doki can also hold him if he goes out as well there. So you'd imagine that Volps is now going to be the next person dead. And obviously they had one player playing on the windows. There you go. Volps is now dead. So where are the rest of the players? Where's the team wipe of W7M? Because they've tried a quick play to clear Benja, and they have cleared Benja. But it's cost them 3 lives for their troubles to kill one measly Mozzie player. Julio has worked his way into electrical. And he will find a kill onto Doki, so he's well known. And then JV has been seen on the camera. If we just roll this back just 5 seconds, you're going to see that Blair is completely ready for JV. JV's tried lurking in. Whilst this is all going on, JV's gone in garage and tried lurking up the main stairs. Blair is completely ready. Shoots him down. And he even goes and gives him a little teabag. I don't know if anybody remembers on the cast. He gets his pistol out and goes and teabags him. G2 are really feeling themselves at this point. And if we just check there, yep, the camera is up. It was on and it did check him. So W7M have basically, to try and achieve 3 kills, just kind of played for Benja and fallen right into G2's traps there. Julio's in sight, and he's going to find 1 kill before he eventually gets traded out. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back, because Blair obviously doesn't put up the numbers for G2 that a lot of people, believe that he maybe should, and he plays a backline role. I want to show you how smart a player is, and particularly in this round, how he helped his teammates out by quickly moving his position and being absolutely aware of everything going. Because does Blair not make the plays that he does? G2 were in risk of losing this round because of the plays going on to Benja. So you'll see, as soon as G2 know that it's a lobby side take, they hear the lion. Obviously, the scans are coming out. No G2 player is actually on cams at this point. But Blair very quickly realizes this and gets himself into the position to pick up these kills. He gets a 3K in this round. And he plays it very, very smartly. We'll just watch this, carry on watching it out. Sees one through the drone hole, so he knows one's there. It's really smart from Blair. Really smart all round. Changes his position. Gets nice and low. He knows that the Nook's coming. He's ready for the lurk up below. Picks up the Nook. Oof. Nice shot in the end. Picks up the second player, and then in about 5 more seconds, he's going to pick up JV, who's obviously going to be spotted on the camera. And there it is. Really, really nice from Blair, and I've got to give him a lot of credit for that round, because I thought he did very well to win it for G2. Round 8, and G2 are really feeling it now. They're feeling good, they're feeling confident. 5-2 up, and they're defending onto bank. Now, they've gone to the basement bomb site, and they've done a kind of roam setup where they use a lot of utility inside of the middle floor, but they also have a lot of redundancy should teams just go direct. You can see straight away, should a team go for a full clear or even go direct, they've got 1, 2, 3 Goyo canisters, and then 1, 2 Aruni gates. They've got a lot of redundancy just for a direct take straight into server. Server hatch is reinforced, so in a sense, they're kind of baiting that in. They're kind of wanting it to happen as well. Obviously, there's a player putting barbed wire in dirt as well. They've got a good idea should this happen. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Obviously, they're going to have some information in garage. You can see that there's a bulletproof can. That's not the interesting bit. That's fairly default, to be honest. Here's the interesting bit. they've got a full open area setup. Now, it's not uncommon for teams to have full open area setups and rotates. They basically want to have people in and around the mid floor to force attackers to come and clear them. That's why you see that this hatch here is soft in terms of the site hatch. That's why you see the hallway hatch is open. The elevator hatch is open. That's not too uncommon, and teams will eventually try and fall down because they know that hatches are going to get open eventually. Now, in terms of what's smart and what's not smart, it might not have been smart to do a roam setup because of the fact that Hibana has been banned, Cade is in play. We saw how much issue G2 had, particularly with opening this hallway hatch on their attacks and how much it stunted them. So for them to open it themselves and play, defense and play a roam might not be the smartest idea. They obviously will have some kind of turtle strategy, but they've not elected to do so. So what's interesting about this strategy is both walls from Lone Office are reinforced. Both walls from Tellers are reinforced. G2 want their cutback options not to be cut off by anybody that's playing inside the Tellers, obviously holding lines. Normally you might get players holding lines through the soft wall and Tellers, and the same through the Lone Office walls there. They don't want any of those cutback options to be completely cut off by the attackers. That's why they're spending 4 reinforcements. They've also spent reinforcements in open area towards the window so that they can play a little bit more freely inside of the open area and kitchen. It's a lot of investment into that mid floor. The reason I say that they're feeling it is you can see Doki's already looking for a spawn peek or a jump out up in CO because he's anticipating, quite rightly so, that either W7M are going to do one of two things. They're either going to full clear and they will start at the top floor, most likely on the windows, or they will do a half clear. Now, if they start full clear and start on the windows, Doki has an excellent opportunity, and you might call it monkey play, but he has an excellent opportunity to go 1-for-1. So if he does go 1-for-1, what do we lose? We lose a Legion, who isn't really relevant for plant denial, isn't that relevant for the roam, is nice to have, but if you lose him, you're not too fussed. If you lose any of these attackers, you either lose set of nades, Yin Candelas, hard breach charges, Osa shields, smokes, hard breach charges, Nook. Like, there is so much utility that the attackers have to bring on bank. If Doki gets a 1-for-1, it's absolutely worth it. So this is where the aggression should, be taken if you are a defender and if they do go for a full clear. As we can see from the outlines of W7M, we can see that there's one outside of windows and that they're completely going out towards this north side. It looks like they might have spotted this opportunity to do a half clear, but we'll have to see because 2 people have gone straight into serve or straight into dirt tunnel, and then we've got players on the roof and going towards windows. So we'll have to see how their attack forms up. The fact that they've got the Osa, however, is indicating it's half clear territory. Now, the way half clear works, just for those that might not know what a half clear is you want somebody that controls, basically all you want to do is you want to take control of server. If you take control of server, what you can do is you can use a shield. Now, let's just say it's an Osa shield or a Monty. I don't know why I've drawn a square instead of just using my square tool, but whatever. You put a shield here, you plant here. And the reason being is that you can plant just behind that utility is normally that there's like a roam setup going on. Normally there's only a smoke on site. And this is the exact scenario W7M are facing. So should they clear enough utility, get an Osa shield set up here, they can plant here for free. Now, the only way that G2 can retake it is either forcing their way through a disadvantageous scenario where they're forcing into a shield straight into the line of sight, or they retake the top floor. So the way that half clear usually works is you commit 2 to 3 people into site, maybe even 4, and then one player usually goes into top square here and then just stands and holds the flank. Now, it depends on how much you want to hold the flank compared to how much you want to take the site. That's how the half clear works. That's why we're looking at the Nook here, just up on the top floor of JV, and then the rest of the players should be looking towards trying to get control of server. Maybe one lurks in, on a backstab, and that's what we're seeing from the player over on the far side. So server's taken, Herds gets the kill onto Virtue. Now, that's the smoke off the board. They've got server control. This is absolutely half clear territory. They just need to work fast to actually establish a plant. One Osa shield goes down. They need anybody who can do any kind of breaching in. Now, this is where it's kind of genius from G2 setup. They've left both of these walls soft. Now, this is, soft walls near site are obviously not common in most sites. However, inside of this particular site, it is common because there's very little room for a sledge in any lineup in bank. You may well bring a buck for the hard breach charges, but also there's a lot of better operators that can bring hard breach charges than buck. Zero and Ying basically on bank would rule in the hard breach charge kind of category. So leaving these walls soft actually makes it difficult, believe it or not, for W7M to get into the site. They're going to have to expend probably hard breach charges or maybe even a thermite charge onto soft walls, which obviously makes it very difficult. As you can see, here goes the thermite. He's about to thermite the soft wall. It can be shot. I don't know if this one gets shot. Alamo has found one onto KZ who's backstabbing, and this is, you know, W7M have done a lot of this where they've lost lives unnecessarily. He was over here, right? Where was he? Where's Alamo found this kill? Yeah, I'm fairly sure it was, yeah. Oh my god, he got all the way up to garage. But this is something that W7M have, you know, did on the previous attack and did on this attack, is their backstabbers are kind of going before the main push. And it carried on being a continuous theme throughout the final, actually. Their backstabbers go before the main push, which just, it makes them a freebie. So G2 have got back to the same man advantage. They've equalised it back out. 3 on site and 1 playing above the hallway hatch. That will be the Goyo of Benjamaster. Now, the site hatch was reinforced. Sometimes you'll see teams leave this site hatch open, because if you do get the site hatch open, there is an angle all the way down to the default plant spot that you can get from the site hatch. However, G2 reinforced it, which means that actually playing above the hatches is irrelevant for them. So this is full half clear territory, and G2 needs to decide what they want to do. The Nook is obviously lurked in, controlling the flank, and then you've got 3 players of W7M. It's about now baiting that utility. So you can see a smoke grenade goes out to cover the thermite charge of the soft wall. Yin Candelas, all of this utility to cover the thermite charge, even draws out a C4. So the Osa will walk in, and this is very typical half clear. This scenario right now is very typical half clear. Apart from the fact that Blair's picked up a massive kill onto Herds. So W7M have had 2 unnecessary deaths thus far. Given the situation they've got into, they absolutely could have been executing this in a 5v3. Instead, they're executing it in a 3v4. This is going to mean Volps is probably going to have to throw another Candilla and then have basically any Overwatch here on 20 C4s that come flying in, and then the Nook is going to have to drop the hatch. They're forced into those plays, particularly the Nook, because of the 3v4 scenario. Another Candela goes in, shoots the C4, Nook drops the hatch. So now you've got a good scenario here from W7M's perspective where the half clear is coming off, apart from there's a flank coming in from Doki. Because those 2 players died, the flank controller has had to jump into site and try and create a distraction so that the plant goes down. Doki gets a free flank off. They're aware of Doki's flank, hence both of the players jumping off the plant. Now, as you can see, Doki is completely known and will get taken back out. Sorry for the bad observing there. But at the same time, Benja, and we'll go into his point of view, peeks out onto the Osa shield and finds the kill onto the original planter. That creates a 1v2 scenario. Now, Volps can actually get the plant. Because he's got the Osa shield, it's very hard for either Alamau or Benja to actually challenge Volps. If they push through whilst he's planting, he gets off the Osa shield, he can then peek them and kill them and identify 1v1s. Or they have to let him plant. G2 choose to let him plant, thinking he might get off, seeing that he doesn't, and they're now in this scenario where the attacker has got an Osa shield and they've got to peek him together. Now, what they did here was actually quite genius. See how Alamau's taken a lot of attention. Look at Benja's routing and how he hugs the wall. At some point, Alamau is going to jump this, and you can see he's mid-animation. He's not even jumping it, he's just running through, which is going to force Volps to peek Alamau. Alamau sacrifices his life here so that Benja can get a swing for free from a close angle that Volps isn't necessarily expecting. Alamau runs in, Volps peeks him, downs him, Benja kills Volps. Really well played 2v1 by G2, but I've got to say, this half clear was absolutely on for W7M, and they fumbled the bag. They fumbled the bag because the plant should have gone down in a man advantage scenario when it was first going down. But both players, as you can see, jump off the flank to hold Doki's flank. Right now, they both jump off. Now, if Herd and KZ had played properly and hadn't exposed themselves for free kills, W7M are executing that in a 5vx scenario. That would then mean JV can control the flank like he was supposed to, and then these two players wouldn't have had to look back for Doki. They could have just focused on the plant, and they probably win the round. So it was a very well played round by G2 in the end to get back and recover that and find the kills where, I would say, where they're supposed to find the kills. But W7M completely misplayed that attack, particularly Heads and particularly KZ, who was obviously backstabbing before the main execute had come off. Round 9, and ultimately the final round of this second map of the 6th Invitational 2023 final. We'll see G2 go up to the top floor. Now, G2 have got a different strat setup to how W7M had hit. Let's remember W7M really focused on G2's lobby takes. G2 don't exactly have the default strat that you would see a lot of teams run on this site, but it is a modified version of it. You can see the 2 canto walls are reinforced and the Azami is in play. That's very standard. That's very standard. You can see that the janitor hold has the 2 single walls to peek out either way if there's any rappel going. Now that's now pretty much standard across the board. However, G2 have got a lot of long angles and a lot of holes. As you can see, all the way through to heaven and all the way through. Lots of long angles that can be played from Trump. And I would imagine that they've got a couple of 1.5s on the board. Yes, they do. They've got the Wamai and they've got the Mozzie on the board to play the 1.5s from Trump as well. Now, here's the bit where it gets a little bit non-standard. Normally, you will see teams reinforce 2 walls into stock and have these holes here. These holes here as feet holes. G2 have actually got a very long line of sight all the way from meeting to these holes into stock. They're making it an absolute death pit should any attacker jump into there, and they're reinforcing those holes basically with the presence of the shield. Now, this is G2 playing onto the bans because they know, again, like I said in the previous video, in the previous, half about W7M, is when you're breaching this wall, you can only do it with Ace. We can see that actually W7 aren't even running Ace, but let's say that they were. They can get max 3 separate breaches that can kill the keeper barriers. As long as Virtue gets enough keeper barriers onto, and I would expect him to be playing in a position to get them onto there, as long as he gets enough keeper barriers onto that wall, that means that you can play behind this shield for free without the repel player holding you. So this Hibana ban is coming in strong and is a key kind of crutch, I would say, of this strategy. Hibana's in play. You can't run this strategy at all as a pro team. Now, the bit where it gets slightly weirder is you need freedom of movement of your janitor player if you're going to play this strat, because the reason that you would normally have, and I'm spinning around again, the reason that you would normally have these walls reinforced, a shield here, and a player playing here, is so that you can get a long line of sight down janitor hallway that protects the janitor player. That doesn't exist now. So this janitor player needs the freedom to rotate out and swing while somebody else has a long angle all the way to top heaven. To do that, G2 have thought about, well, if the attack knows he needs to do that, they can go below, they can open the hatch. Now, what G2 have done for that is they have reinforced every single office wall, and they've played a player down here on his own. You can see Benja is down here on his own. His aim is to control this basement to protect this player and control it completely. He is a kind of weak point. He just needs to show enough presence and potentially try and... He either gets completely cleared by a full team, and G2 are aware of it, or he has success and the attackers cannot clear this player out from below. The reason all of these walls are reinforced is it's very easy, if they're not, for attackers just to take control of tellers, archives, yada yada, and then put a hole in and just up-nade the janitor player. So that's why those walls are reinforced. It's a lot of commitment by G2 into this specific setup. I wouldn't say it's completely default, but it is a variation of a default top floor setup. So we'll have to see how it goes on. Now, let's have a quick look at W7M setup because it's looking a little bit weird. First and foremost, for a top floor, Thermite is almost never brought and is almost useless. The reason being, you cannot open the Canto walls with Thermite. You are never realistically going to be opening the heaven walls if there's holes with Thermite. And a lot of pro teams are now leaving this wall soft so that you can't rappel in on windows. So where is Thermite going to open? Realistically, absolutely nowhere. So I'm not sure why JV is playing the Thermite. Osa is and can be used to walk up the lobby stairs as a kind of false shield. This is kind of in lieu of the Monty. I'm thinking this is why this is a really good Monty ban from G2, because we've now seen W7M use the Osa twice instead of the Monty, and in both scenarios the Monty is probably a better use. They're bringing the Ayana, fine. They're bringing the Zero, fine. And they're bringing the Ying, fine. But the Thermite, particularly in the Osa, I'm not so keen and I'm not so sold on. So if we look at their positions, we can see that there's 2 outside ATMs and then there's 3 going to go top square for G2. So if they go top square, what can they take control of? Well, they can take control of stock, but it's going to be very hard to jump in. So G2 have got this strategy really, really well thought out, because it's going to be difficult for them to jump into stock. If they get into heaven, they can't really breach anything, and G2 have got these long angles ready for it. So it looks like once again, W7M are kind of going to be falling into G2's trap, just based on where the outlines are and how the setup's going to go. As long as G2 play this strategy correct, they're going to be able to basically fortify everything inside this rectangle and kind of trump there. And if they can just play inside of these, it doesn't matter what control the attackers take, as because of the existence of the long angles, all of the fight should be in G2's favour. Obviously, Benja is still down here below himself as well. Stock window is going to be opened. And what do W7M know? What have they droned? They're droning out lobby. Who else is on a drone? Nobody at this moment in time. Looks like Julio's going to do some droning off top floor. So again, you can see it's going to be very tricky for them. The Osa's not a bad play if you're going to do a top square take, actually. It's not that bad a play because you can set your Osa shields up in a method that you can hold these long angles. You can walk in and get established with the Osa shields and hold the long angles. If they don't know about Benja, though, this is going to be quite detrimental, because Benja's in a position here where he can just C4 vertically and just get rid of anything. He's between a drone network, so Benja should be absolutely known about on these drones. Whether he is or not is a completely different question. But all 3 of them are in a place where they should know that Benja is there. We can see the remaining W7M players that were going lobby have actually decided not to go lobby. We can see that the other W7M player, there's 4 of them now over on the square side, and 1 is going to go on the far side across to the windows. That one will be... Who is that? It's going to be KZ on the Zero, just opening up the windows alongside JV. So JV is going to have to play windows. There's the C4 from Benja, and there's one of the Osa shields getting destroyed. So it doesn't get a kill, but does get rid of the Osa shields. Benja's shown his hand, but he should use that as an opportunity now to just get himself out of there so that they're not forcing kills. Nades goes in from the Ayana, gets rid of the shield now towards the meeting side. So essentially, W7M have taken control of stock. And like I say, this smoke needs to get active in this position, needs to not really die in this position as well. Thermite's obviously walked in. And I said it's going to be very difficult to Thermite any of these walls. It looks like he's absolutely going to try. It's very difficult to know what W7M are planning here, because now the players that have gone back from that started square side have going back repels and ATMs. So they're trying to just look for picks, and G2, they're just consolidating back in this backline. They know that they can play a lot of these places for free because of this Hibana ban, because of the way that they're playing. They've got probably quite a good idea now that W7M aren't going to breach the counter wall, because they'd have known about it. It's been 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So G2 have wasted a lot of time, they've gotten rid of a lot of utility, and there's only really Blur that's playing in any kind of threatened position right now. And G2 have also fought everything through. You know, they've fought about the fact of Warden and Smokes, because look who they've got. They've got Alamau playing in a long angle position with that 1.5 that you want him to play with Warden. So he can just hold all of these Yin Candelas, he can hold any jump ins that happen whatsoever, and he's got that long angle to his advantage. Benj is also there with a 1.5, as this overlay has now gone into Warden mode, holding long angles. And this is what G2 strategy is all about. They want this scenario to occur. They want the attackers to be coming into the site late and repelling in and walking in to all of these long angles. Blair's played a blinder here by just staying alive, and we're going to have a 25-second execute with 2 on the windows, 1 in Cop Square, 1 in stock, and then 1 coming in lobby. There we go. 1 player jumps into stock. Smokes comes out. Virtue's ready for the backstab. Again, KZ on the backstab has been the opening death. This synergy between W7M in this particular map has been so off, where the backstab has been entry death rather than the main push. KZ should be coming in when his team are executing and trying to get the plant down inside of sight, not beforehand. So KZ's the opening death. Virtue now can join the other 2 people in holding all of these long angles. The Wamai that can, I think it's Wamai. No, it's not Wamai. Who is it? Not sure who it is that's playing. Oh, it's the Malusi. The Malusi of Doki can now just hold the long angle towards stock. These 3 players can all focus on sight, and then Blur can just be the sitting duck that plays close shotgun for anybody that comes into Janitor Hallway. G2 have got W7M exactly where they want them. Now it's Yings and Smokes, so we're expecting that Alamo should have a lot of success here. Wall bangs 1. Sees another in the smoke. Herds manages to pick 1 up as he peeks out towards Doki, who I said he could hold the long angle. It is Doki, so he's going to get a little bit active and a little bit fraggy. So they now know at least 1 player is, as Benja peeks onto JV, and they now know 1 player has got a walk into meeting and doesn't have diffuser. Walks in, Blair finishes him off. Really good round by G2, particularly excellent with their discipline, with knowing what W7M were going to try and do late into the round, just those mid-round readings, because it looked like a top square take straight away. To an extent it was. It then transformed into window take, and G2 were just happy to sit in their power positions on the back line until, and everybody did, to be honest, apart from Doki, who came walking down long late. Apart from that, everybody sat in their power positions. Blair sat in his, and the 2 1.5 players both sat in theirs to peek that side. Really, really good discipline from G2. Really good team play, and really good collapse onto that execute. For W7M, it was poor again. It was an attack that didn't make a lot of logical sense from the outset, and then their backstabber was hitting, the first engagement, which is something that you absolutely never want as an attacker.